If money management was a Commonwealth Games event, well, Daniel Andrews, he'd finished stone cold last. The Victorian Premier deserves absolutely no credit for cancelling the 2026 Games. He should never have bid for them in the first place. Now, Victoria was already in more than $100 billion of debt when Dan Andrews announced his intention to host the event. But Dan's never been in a hole that he didn't insist that he could make deeper. He insisted on adding another $2.6 billion of debt by hosting the Games. He conveniently announced Victoria would host the Games just months before an election, exciting every sporting organisation in the state to back his re-election. But one thing you can count on in the state of Victoria, more certain than the Australian swimmers dominating in the pool, is that Labor government projects will run over budget. Now, Dan promised a $2.6 billion event and now says it looks like being a $6 billion event, or is it $7 billion? Even today, Dan Andrews can't nail the cost down to within $1 billion. That is how fiscally hopeless this Labor government is. Now, Dan Andrews cancels the whole thing and he behaves like he deserves a medal. He doesn't even deserve a participation ribbon. Premier Andrews tried to roll out one of his best performances for the press today, but this story is clearly full of holes. Now, Commonwealth Games Australia Chief Executive Officer Craig Phillips set the record straight on various points. Now, here are a few of his words, and I will quote. The Victorian government has jeopardised Melbourne and Victoria's standing as a sporting capital of the world. The detailed budgetary implications announced today have not been cited or discussed with the CGF or CGA ahead of being notified of the government's decision. The stated cost overrun, in our opinion, are a gross exaggeration and not reflective of the operational costs presented to the Victorian 2026 Organising Committee as recently as June. They did not step in as hosts at the last minute, as indicated by the Premier earlier today. End quote. Now, this brings into question the accuracy of the Premier's statements at his press conference today. Now, did he lie to us? The people deserve the truth and I'll pursue it. The Commonwealth Games contract was irresponsible in the first instance, since it was always unaffordable. 2.6 billion, 6 billion, 7 billion, it doesn't really matter. Victoria is dead broke. And under the rule of a fiscally irresponsible government, was the Commonwealth Games a ploy by Daniel Andrews to garner support before the election? Was it a bid not to run a sporting event, but to convince every sporting organisation in the state to re-elect him? And then, after voters put him on the podium, he just casually walks away from the Commonwealth Games contract, at a cost to taxpayers yet to be disclosed, of course. Now, Premier Andrews has embarrassed the state of Victoria and our nation, and yet he claims the moral high ground for being responsible, when in my opinion he is the most irresponsible, reckless Premier in Australia's history. He's an international embarrassment. Victorians should be furious with today's announcement. Victorians should be furious with the entire charade. Don't be fooled by the tricky promises of legacy projects and tourism boosts. Andrews is a Commonwealth Games cheat who should be disqualified from competing for anything ever again. I'm Senator Alphabet for the United Australia Party.
Yeah, that's my kind of party, the United Australia Party. So sound the starting gun. You know we've just begun.